This is a test of the Boundary Park alert system. Hello and welcome to the Boundary Park alert system. My name is Matt Dean and I'm joined this week by Andy Halliwell. Good morning, Andy.
Good morning, Matthew.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right.
Yeah.
I've been indulging myself in Test cricket this weekend. I've been to the Oval. I've been enjoying watching England, compete pretty well against Sri Lanka. Have you been up to anything?
I've done a couple of gigs this weekend, so just been. Last night I had a few whiskies, so I'm a little bit. No, I'm not tender this morning by any means. I'm just a bit sleepy. You know, you don't sleep great, do you? When you have, one. There's a limit in there. There's a tipping point we drink that affects your sleep.
Yeah.
So I'm a bit sleepy. I sort of carried on the kind of sleepiness that I felt for large chunks of yesterday's game, actually. We'll come back to that. But we do have a fan guest who is a first timer.
Yeah.
So do your thing, Andy.
Do my thing. Okay. When was your first game, fan guest?
My first game was actually, believe it or not, at Elland Road in the Premier League years. My dad had a mate who was a Leeds fan, so I was in the Leeds home end when Gordon Strachan scored. But my first home game was I think it was about 95-ish against Grimsby on a wet Tuesday night, about October time. And I mean, wet and cold is what we're always at Boundary Park, isn't it, really? So it started quite nicely. Funnily enough, just as a slight aside on that, I did actually have a ticket for the Boxing Day in 92-93 against Liverpool. You know, the one that got postponed and then ended up being part of the Great Escape.
Yeah.
At the end of that season. So when that worked out quite well in the end, really, even though I missed the game.
Was that Leeds game a televised game?
I think it was. Yeah, I think it was a Monday night, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, I remember watching it. Paul. I remember Paul Gerrard palming it in, and he should have saved it. That's what I thought. Yeah. Anyway, in my memory. So you started in the halcyon days, so that ages you a little bit. What is your favourite Latics-related memory?
Well, I suppose games-wise, you've got to look at the obvious ones from the recent years. That your Liverpool. Forest away, I think, gets forgotten about in that season because we went on to beat Liverpool. Fulham away, obviously. I think the other thing, I suppose, on a bit more of a personal note, it's remembering like my granddad who used to take me when we were kids. Now I take my daughters with my wife. My dad was there with me yesterday, so it's nice having that sort of side as well. None of them are Oldham fans. It's just me who's an Oldham fan, but it's nice having them with me and stuff like that. But games wise, like I say, it's those big giant killings really, because we've had no else, have we? Let's face it.
None of them are Oldham fans. Well, we'll come back to that in a minute. So that sounds like an interesting story. Who's your first favourite player?
Andy Ritchie, without a doubt. Yeah, straight away, right from the word go.
So give us a little unknown fact about yourself and maybe explain that sort of backstory, why you a Latics fan if none of your family are.
This doesn't sound like a true story, but it is actually a true story. In late 1990, I decided on a Sunday morning that I wanted to support a football team. And we lived in Accrington at that time. And at that time, Stanley were in like the Unibond League, so they were really low down, so I didn't want to be ironically didn't want to be a non-league fan, and for some reason I didn't want to be a Blackburn fan either. They were the sort of next town over, so I actually got a newspaper and literally closed my eyes and put a finger on the newspaper and it came out at Oldham, and ever since then I've been an Oldham fan. And I mean, the only good thing is that at least it's always been close enough for me to get to watch. I mean, I often wonder, like, if it had been like Southend or somewhere like that, you know, I would have never even got there. But at least I can get there. But yeah, I do kind of feel like it could have turned out better.
and I guess the other thing that's worth saying is people may well have come across you as long distance Latic. and you've been writing articles for the Oldham Times for what, a couple of years now?
Yeah, a couple of years. Yeah, Suzanne asked me to start doing that. I think it was October 22, something like that. So I write a weekly article for that. It's quite cathartic, actually. It gets it off your chest and lets me try and forget about it and get on with my week. I really enjoy doing that.
That's how Matt and I have treated this podcast for 5 seasons. Yeah. So this week's fan guest is Simon Mather. Is that right?
That's right.
Yeah. So welcome to the pod.
Thank you very much.
Where are you based these days, Simon?
So I live in Newcastle. I've been up here for just over 20 years now. I'm married to a Geordie, so I'm stuck up here now. Right. I love it up here. It's great up here. But I do always enjoy getting home when I can. So
nice one. And were you at Boundary Park yesterday?
I was, yeah.
Me too. Andy, did you listen in, or what was your experience yesterday at Latics?
I listened to the commentary yesterday, and sort of, picked up bits and bats. For me, it sounded like the first half was a non-event, and they picked up in the second half. But again, like last week, I wasn't there. I'll let you two talk about it.
Well, I think before we do, shall we have a listen to Dave's interview with Mickey Mellon, and we'll take it from there.
Boundary Park alert system. In hindsight, do you think playing two up front in the second half got a lot more out of it rather than having
Captain Hindsight would be the best manager in the world. Yeah. Everybody plays on hindsight. Everybody's an expert now. Everybody's going away from the game and saying, well, we should have did this and that. Who's saying that before? We've played very, very well at times. When you play two up front against a team that plays four in the middle, you leave yourself a wee bit open at times. It was a bit of a chess game in the first half. I think there was not really anything of note. But if I was Captain Hindsight now and you asked me was I going to play with two up front and Fondop was going to play like that, you tell me somebody in the world that knew that he was going to play like that. Find me somebody. And then I'll say, all right, fair enough. He came to me before the game and told me he was going to score in the 67th minute. Great, I should have played him. So, yeah, glad I put him on. So there you go. So I'm glad I put him on when I put him on, because that got the desired outcome at half time, and we managed to scramble ourselves a point, but wanted more.
We're not far away though, are we? The last few games, it's nearly there.
We're not far away. We're trying to play football, but we have to play football with a purpose. I've been in this a long time, and I get that. We have to play with a purpose. We have to play when we're controlling the game, which we weren't able to do last year, by the way, because we didn't have the players that were able to do that. Yeah. So let's get that straight. We didn't have them. Now we've got them, and you can play that way. What I want us to do is when we've worked an overload, if we've worked a way out, we're out. Let's go and play forward now. Let's go and find the forward passes. And we'll get better at that. And then when it goes into the forward areas and when it's busy, I want clever players in the busy areas to go and get little combinations or little back and throughs or get it wide and get some crosses in the box and get people in the box and then secure the edge of the box. That's the finished article that I want to see us. And that's just principles. That's nothing to do with tactics. That's principles. You play forward when you can and back yourself to do that. No. With hindsight, yeah, but I don't have. Nobody has the benefit of hindsight. But no, I'm just really pleased that we put him on, Michael. Really pleased that we put the other subs on. Yeah. And really pleased that they were able to battle back and show us a wee bit more of what we are. That was important. But what I will keep going back to say is they're a decent team. You're not going. There's no walkover in this league. When you're playing against these types of teams. So we stood and we fought our corner and we didn't take a backward step and we came forward and then they came back at us. So it was a real contest.
And with Foresight coming up to Halifax, to get it in.
I'll tell you what, somebody come to me now and tell me when they're going to score and who's going to do this and who's going to do that. Everybody's an expert, aren't they, going home? Everybody's an expert, aren't we? We all know what we're doing now, don't we? You write about it, say we should have did this, we should have did that. No, I'm jesting, I'm having a laugh, you know. That's football, and that's the way it is. But hopefully, I kind of, like every manager in the world, will be able to and foresight, be able to look at it and look and think, I believe that this team's going to do this today. But certainly, I'm the first to put my hand up and say that we weren't the version of ourselves that I want to see at home, and I want you guys to see. I'm just speaking passionately, and I'm not having a go at him, Darren.
No, we can't. But as fans, I think we can see it, can't we?
It's coming, but we just need to make better. Biggest thing in football is decision making.
Yeah.
There's no other quality that's needed better than when you get to these levels. You've got talents, but decision making is what it's about. So you decide which pass you're going to take on, when you're going to take it on, and that then is up to me to encourage them to play forward. And I take responsibility for that. But at half time, they were told in no uncertain terms, I want it forward, and I want it forward with quality, and I want to try and hit these. And then when it goes there, I want you and you up there to go and contest that, and then I want to go and play. And then when they've got it, I think we could maybe have pressed a wee bit better today if I was being a bit at times, but it was a basketball game, wasn't it? But certainly we worked our socks off, and I've got a really tired group of boys in there, which is encouraging to see, because they're giving everything for Oldham, and we're still going to keep growing it forward. And we want to get better. We want to get better all the time. But no, we'll keep going. But I think it's important that I come out and say, we all can see what we want to do, but if we can just make better decisions about what we want to do and when we want to do it, we'll show a better version of what we were second half.
Thanks, Vicky.
Thank you.
He's getting more nicknames by the week, Sexy Dave Bradley. He's Captain Hindsight now as well. What do you make of that, Simon? What's your assessment?
I mean, you can see everything he's saying. You really can. And I mean, for me, it's just so frustrating watching them at the moment. I just come away from every game that I've been to this season really frustrated, because you feel like in fits and starts, there's bits and pieces there that were doing really well, and then it's obviously not transferring into the results. And because let's face it, if we are going for promotion, which everyone at the club says we are. Darren was on Radio Manchester yesterday saying promotion's the aim, etc. Promotion should be the aim without a doubt. The results are going to have to be better. And I just think it's a bit frustrating, because a lot of the things he's saying after every game, and it's sort of like, when do we start seeing that improvement on a consistent basis? Because as far as I'm concerned, there is improvement there without a doubt. We are a much better side than we were last season, but it's about actually becoming, I think, maybe a bit more clinical at times. So I find it a little bit frustrating. Equally, he doesn't have a magic wand just to turn things on and start changing things. But then on the other hand, again, second half yesterday, we actually did all right. Why did we not do that in the first half? Is that down to him and the way it started? So it's, like I say, for me, frustration is the overall feeling, both at the game and actually listening to what he said after, really.
I mean, he said yesterday the reason that he didn't play with two up top was because of their four in the middle. So, he made that decision. Yesterday, the first half, the word I would use to describe it was boring as a spectacle. It was just very, very flat. The atmosphere was flat. There wasn't a great deal of chances created by either team. I think it was a bit of a chess match, and there was a bit of sort of feeling each other out, and a bit of sparring going on, really. And you've got to be careful against Southend. They're a good side. We saw last season. They've probably not started. Them and their fans will be looking at this season thinking exactly the same. They're one of the biggest clubs in the division, best fan base, one of the best fan bases in the division. Did really well last season under really difficult circumstances. Probably expected to start the season a bit better. You wouldn't, if you as a neutral, you're looking at Southend, you'd be thinking they'll probably finish much higher up the table than where they are now. So that you wouldn't be panicking for Southend. When it's your own club, people tend to sort of have a bit more of an emotional reaction to where we're at. At the end of the day, we've got 9 points now, and we are, is it 9 points? We're in 9th place. Is it on 10 points? I literally just looked at this and I've forgotten already. But yeah, we're in 9th place on 10 points. So we're 7 off top, off Gateshead, who were off to a flyer. Rochdale, annoyingly, are 4 points ahead of us in third. But the table doesn't really matter at this stage of the season. It's not by any stretch definitive of how it's going to end. It's just there is a bit of frustration, and the atmosphere at Boundary Parties today was very flat in the first half, particularly. But the football, as a spectacle, it wasn't one for the fans to get excited about. There wasn't incidents, big tackles, near misses, the kind of things that fire you up. It was just a bit of a chess game. The most disappointing thing yesterday was the goal that we conceded in that first half. It was a carbon copy of the goal that we conceded at Altrincham. And when you look back at it, you look at the wall, the 2-man wall that James Norwood and somewhere else was in it. I'm not sure who it was. Where they were positioned to kind of cover the near post, and it just invited that ball. It was like you've got one place to put it in now between the players that are in the box and this wall, and he just sneaked in and put it in, and it was another soft goal. And if we're winning all these games 1-0, again, cheap goals against Fylde and Gateshead, then it's a different story. So I don't think we're a million miles off. I think we're improved on last season. I don't think we're not the finished article by a long way. There's a lot of improvement left to go within the squad and within this team. What I will say, though, at least, and this is something that we've definitely not had for the last couple of seasons, is he can make changes off the bench and it can change the game. And that's what happened yesterday. And that, for me, is a really encouraging thing, because he was able to change the formation yesterday, go 2 up top. There was a spell in the second half where it really looked like it was clicking and we were getting balls in, we were getting forward. Unfortunately, after the equaliser, it just kind of dropped off and they couldn't sustain that pressure and that effective way of playing to go and find the winner, which was frustrating. But Andy, we see it a lot, don't we? You've got your different camps of fans. You've got those who are like looking at it from like, I guess, like we are, which is like things are improving. We've got better players. Things are going to click at some point, and it's going to be okay. And then you've got the ones who are, I'll give it 10 games, and then if things aren't exactly how I was expected to be after 10 games, then we need to think about getting rid of the manager. I mean, that you can see it slowly creeping into the online stuff, can't you?
Yeah, I ignored social media yesterday. I had plenty of things to do. I haven't really read it. I've seen a couple of bits, but yeah, look, we've got to back a manager over a long period of time to give them the chance to build a team that's successful over a series of, in effect, transfer windows, even though we're not sort of obligated under that structure being in the National League. We're still carrying, like we said multiple times this season already, we're still carrying a chunk of wages on players that we don't want or are not playing for us. And so that hampers our ability to sign even more players. But some of the players that he's brought in have been exceptionally good. And I think, and this is now going to be the problem, right? Harry Charsley looks like he's pulled his groin, right? So he probably isn't going to be available for a couple of weeks, depending on how severe that is. Mm-hmm. And he's going to be a big miss because for me, he's been one of our 2 best players this season. And he starts the press and he really harries from the front and he's a fit lad and he looks, a cut above some of the other players we've got. And Norwood took a knock, didn't he? So he's got a bit of bruising, so he might be out Tuesday. And Mickey said in to Suzanne, he's 34, and we've been a bit reckless playing him for 90 minutes after bringing him off for 60 minutes, 2 weeks on a bounce, or 2 games on a bounce. So we're going to have to manage that as well. And we might start looking a bit threadbare if we've got some players out. I don't know how far Garner is off; he must be close now. Cade is the same. So, it's not going to be plain sailing. The other points of note is I think Southend haven't started that well because they've got a few injuries themselves. So they had a few players out yesterday. So it was a bit disappointing we couldn't capitalise when they were under strength. And it's the consistency level in it at this level is we play 20 minutes, 30-minute passages in games. In most games, probably other than Aldershot, where we look all right, but we can't keep it up for 90 minutes, and we can see the goal often in the other parts of that game. which means that we're behind. We concede the first goal a lot, don't we? We did last season. So you're constantly trying to get back in the game, which makes it harder because the opposition just sit in and.
Have we done that every game since after the Wealdstone game, since the Fylde game? So we took the lead in the first 2 games, and then we've gone behind in all the others, haven't we? I think
so. Yeah, you got one goal down in the other games. Yeah, possibly bar one maybe, but and that's just making it more difficult. But I mean, I'm in agreement with Simon. I think we're not a million miles off, and I'm prepared to be patient with it. Simon mentioned Darren Royal's interview on GMR. It was a 10-minute interview. I've clipped 5 minutes of it, which might be worth just playing now so we can listen to sort of the feeling from beforehand and then maybe discuss that as well.
You made it the first 6 games.
Tough games as ever. The league is a really high quality league. Some of the managers that will have been promoted out of the league will say that a lot of the teams in this league would do well in League 2, which obviously Stockport, Wrexham have done that. Yeah, so they are tough games, but we've done all right. We've done, we probably want 2 more wins out of the draws we've had. All good other than that.
We've just been hearing from Mickey on the recruitment and the business that's been done in the summer. Are you happy with your summer transfer window?
Well, it's down to the manager that. I mean, my role in it personally is to try and obviously make sure the funds are available and the budget's there. The group seems to be really positive. The culture seems to be really positive. The lads that have come in have settled down and they've done well.
So that process has been led by Mickey, and you don't really have that much involvement in it apart from the financial side.
Yeah, I mean, Mickey's got his own staff. Terry McPhillips, head of recruitment, who's doing some coaching as well. I think everyone's got 2 or 3 jobs at this club. It's down to them to scout players. They do embrace analytics as well. They've looked at a lot of analysis as well before it gets to scouting a player. But yeah, it's largely done on that. And obviously Mickey's signed some players that he's had before, so he knows them as well.
Yeah, you mentioned the budget. In terms of the budget, was that the same as last season, or has that been, obviously this is your 3rd year now in the National League, has that been affected by that?
It's been affected in that it's gone up, and that puts a stress on finances for sure. If you're a big club in the National League, due to the competitive nature of it, like our guests today, Southend, they'll have a decent sized budget as well. So yeah, it's gone up the budget, and it's down to us to try and make as much money on and off the pitch to supplement the loss, because most clubs in the EFL, all the clubs in the EFL as far as I know, make a loss, barring 1 or 2, and in the National League it's even tougher without the Premier League and EFL revenues after 2 years.
Yeah, I've been able to attract players that have played in League 1 and League 2 to drop down into the National League. I guess that speaks to the size of support you've got, the ambition of the club, and the owner as well.
I think the owners are key to it. The places, since we took over, the stadium's immaculate, the training facilities are brilliant. Mickey's thinks it's more akin to a League 1 club in terms of its infrastructure, so that does have an effect in terms of helping you attract players. But then we've got a manager with 5 promotions as a manager, so players know that he's a serial winner, and they've got a good chance of playing some great football and having success here.
It's just over 2 years now, I think, since the takeover. What is Oldham Athletic in September 2024 like versus Oldham Athletic in July 2022?
Completely transformed, both tangibly and intangibly as well. It's the facilities and the stadium, of course, the playing squad, and I'd say the culture as well. It's very difficult when you're with a club that's and Pete's obviously had experience of this as well. When you're at a club and it's been relegation after relegation, with pockets of joy in cup games, it's trying to change many supporters' mentalities and stuff. And it, ultimately we all want the team to win, and it's difficult, but it's like a big ship. You turn the wheel, and 6 months later it turns, and it's turning a bit quicker at the moment.
Pete, you sit here today. Obviously, you managed this club under the previous ownership. What do you think in terms of the club that you see before you versus the one that you were in charge of?
The door I walked out 5.5 years ago to what he is today, he's absolute night and day, and that's full credit to Darren and to the owners and to everybody behind the scenes at the football club. The match day experience, I haven't been to the training grounds, but I believe that they're fantastic now, and everything's moving in the right direction. And like Darren says about what Mickey's saying about it's off the pitch, it's a League 1 football club, and it's got all the infrastructure to do so, and that's why you're attracting the likes of James Norwood, Tom Conlon and people like that, because they can see the infrastructure behind behind the scenes. So he's moving massively, and I think what Darren says there about changing a losing culture in a football club's tough, because everybody just turns to, here we go again, whether it's the office staff in the building, whether that's fans. They just see the negative side, because there's just been so much negativity around the place. And I think around the town, I honestly believe this, and the people that I speak to, that everybody's behind what's going on here. We appreciate it's a slow progress. People get frustrated at times, that's life, and everybody in life now wants everything instantly, but the way the club's going and the way the club's moving is fantastic, and long may that continue, and sport in the town get back to where it should be.
Just in terms of the team itself, obviously the ambition hasn't changed. You want to get back into the Football League. This is your third season now. When can fans expect to see Oldham challenging for promotion?
Well, we expected it the first year. Whether it's realistic or not's another thing. One of the things coming in, the day we took over, I did say we need to be patient, but did we really know how competitive and how good the league was? No one really saw the Wrexham effect, which that's had a fundamental impact on I'd say salaries across the league, and budgets and expectations. But we should expect to get promoted. We're a big club, and we're ambitious. We've got a great ownership and board, great staff, great management and playing squad. So we should expect to get promoted, and we need to own that expectation.
Right, yeah, interesting, isn't it? I mean, we all expect to get promoted out of this division, but it's a case of when. It's there's no guarantees, is there? I mean, it's when, not if. I think we're not going to be in here for 21 years like we were in League One, but there's no guarantees, is there?
There isn't, and the way I've always looked at this, and I continue to look at it, is so long as the Rothwell family are motivated and passionate enough to want to get behind it, then they've got my backing. I'm not going to sit here and criticise, because they and the board are sort of learning on the job and making improvements all the time. And yes, it's slow progress from what we want it to be. Like we've done before, the average number of years that a Football League club spends in the National League is 4 seasons. So we're 1 season away from that. We're not hit the average. Yes, we want to go up now. I think I've seen some people, and it's understandable, complaining about a suggested change of narrative about, well, National League's competitive. When you haven't got Wrexham, Chesterfield, Notts County in the league, that you, on face value, I guess the narrative from fans has been it's not as competitive this season, and it isn't when you look at the scale of clubs in the division. You've probably got us, Southend, Hartlepool, Rochdale, York, maybe a Football League sized clubs, and then the rest of them are what you would call standard non-league clubs. So therefore, arguably, on paper it looks like an easier league to compete in, but maybe that's not the case. Mickey Mellon had said in an interview, which we haven't clipped because we'll just be using other people's content all the time, with GMR last night, that he thinks that the National League this season is probably the best he's ever seen it. And now some people have reacted to that like it's changing the narrative, but I'm going to take him on his word. He's managed in this league before with Fleetwood and Tranmere, and therefore he must know the quality of it. And, Southend are a good side. We've said that. Barnet look like they're a good side. Gateshead look like they can move the ball around well. It looks like that maybe there are teams that probably, in terms of their squad, are competitive, and we're just not quite at the position we want to be in yet. In another year or so's time, once we've got rid of all the deadwood and recruited more better players in, then we'll be a better team altogether. And we've got contracts to honour. So I think I'm still prepared to be patient. I'm still relaxed about it. I'm still zen. All right, I'm still chilled. It'll come good. I still think we'll get going this season. I think we'll go on a run at some stage where we win 4 out of 5, 5 out of 6, and we propel ourselves up the division and we end up comfortably in the playoffs. It's a lottery from there. We're not going to win the league. I never thought we'd win the league because I just don't think we're ready. So it's going to be the lottery of the playoffs. We could still end up at Wembley at the end of the season and have a fantastic year. If we don't, it's not the end of the world so long as the Rothwells are prepared to continue to back the club. And so I'm not going to be critical of the Rothwells when they're trying to make us competitive, and we are comfortable and secure and not in any risk of going out of business. And that's kind of where I come to every time.
Simon, Darren said in the interview there quite early on in it about, everyone's got 3 jobs at this club. I think that's something that needs to be taken into consideration. It's not a huge team of people that you would see at bigger football clubs. There's a relatively small number of people doing a lot, trying to transform the club from the club that Pete Wild experienced, and translating all that off field doesn't automatically transfer it to on field. Where are you? When you try being objective in terms of looking at the football you want to see and hope to see, and that compared to the overall football club. And are you in that same kind of position? Overall, are you just happy and just kind of like prepared to just go with the flow and see what happens, or is there a kind of like a tipping point in your mind where you think that it's things have to be, an expectation has to be met?
I'm really positive. I don't think it's necessarily healthy for us to keep looking back to where we were 2 years ago. But having said that, if you look back to where we were 2 years ago, we are on the field and off the field far better off than where we were at that time. And I think I agree with what Andy said. The Rothwells have done absolutely amazing stuff for us, and they certainly have a huge amount of credit in the bank with me. We might not be sat here now had they not done what they did. So there's loads of credit in the bank there. As I said before, the frustration is there for me because I think the squad that we've got now is better than it's performing, and Mickey Mellon has said that himself. And I actually sit next to the dugouts at the home matches, and he gets really angry and really frustrated with the players as well, because I think he knows they're better than they are. Even yesterday, I still don't think we've seen the best of Tom Conlon yet, anywhere near, and I think everyone would agree with that. A lot of people might say we are seeing the best of him and he's no better. I firmly believe he's far better than we're getting from him. And yesterday, everything he just wanted to go backwards and play the easy pass, and Mellon was getting a bit irate with him at times because he knows he can do more than that. And so I think for me that's where Darren said on the interview about how we've got League One, League Two players. We have the players are actually they're good quality players. We're perhaps just not seeing the best of them yet. So I'd love nothing else for us to be promoted this season, and I think. We do have to be up there, but on the other hand, we are without doubt making steps forward. There's absolutely no doubt about that, and there are just a few things that we need to keep working on the field. That midfield is a prime place. The right wing back for right winger, whatever he was yesterday, Scott Morris. He ran rings round us yesterday in the first half. Monker obviously was on the ball a lot, and we just didn't seem to take control of anything, especially in that first half. And at home, that's where we really need to be doing that and getting control of that midfield. And then when we made those changes, and I thought Caprice and Kitching were the big changes, to be honest. Obviously, Fondop came on and scored, but I thought Caprice and Kitching were superb when they came on. They gave us width that perhaps, even though Jez was on, we hadn't quite had in that first half. So it's just about those changes and just to bring the squad that consistency really to get us up the top end of the table for me. But without a doubt, there's huge credit in the bank from the Rothwells, and I certainly trust them and the board to be taking us forward.
I think absolutely. Frank came into the Rochdale Road and like he does yesterday, and there's getting all the plaudits from the Atleticos and whatnot. And I don't think anyone serious thinks that what's happening is all good in that respect. We desperately need a manager in situ for a sustained period of time. It's been the one thing that we've said over and over again. We've said it on this podcast. Happy birthday to us, by the way, Andy. It's we're 4 now. We kicked off with the first game of the lockdown season with Kewell as manager. Lost 1-0 late goal to Leyton Orient, and that was the first pod. And it's been pretty consistent ride since then. But yeah, so we've been over this period, and it is a little bit frustrating. But I mean, my group, one of my group chats is pinging here about Latics, and they're talking about the amount of games that we've won. In I think something like looking, because like you said, Simon, it's not helpful to keep looking back. I think at this point of where we're at, I think that the past is still relevant, because it's like you said, Andy, about the length of contracts and things like that. It's, certain players, it's still having an effect. We've won something like 3 in 20. That's where, even if you go back and look at last season, I wouldn't be worried about that. I'm not starting, the games from last season. I'm starting the games from this season. What that shows, though, is that some of the players that we've had over the last couple of years that have been sort of lingering through the squad, Mickey Mellon made it abundantly clear last year that certain players weren't in his plans, and it's been transitional. There's still this whole sort of like transitional thing. Taking it back to like the here and now. Yesterday, when you mentioned about Caprice and Kitchen, what they actually did was deliver some end products. And yesterday, Jez, he needs to start delivering some end product. He's got he's a right footer playing on the left wing, so he struggles to get balls in with his left foot. Maybe Mellon could try playing him out on the right if he's right-footed and see how that goes, and maybe play Kitchen out on the left. But he's got to start shooting, and he's got to start putting the ball in the box, because a lot of it, what he does is it looks like it's going to be promising. He gets away from his man, and then he sort of stops and he turns and he turns and he turns and he turns, and then he passes it backwards. So he's got to start doing a bit more. But there's other players on the pitch who've got to start doing more. Like I said about Tom Conlon, and players have got to start bossing the game so that players like Jez can start making runs into space and challenge. Like that first goal against Braintree, brilliant ball from Dan Gardner, and he was in. We've seen virtually none of that since that goal. And it's that control of the ball means that the forward players get the chance to make the runs, and we can start creating chances like that again.
He really hasn't. We haven't quite fixed the midfield problem, have we? The midfield was the problem last year because we had almost no creativity in there. It's interesting that Pete Wild name-checked James Norwood and Tom Conlon. So, Tom Conlon, therefore, the inference there is that he's a bit of a name or somebody that would be seen by managers in the lower leagues as someone who's a bit of a coup for us to have signed. That's how we felt about it at the time. He's not been consistent enough, and I am underwhelmed by Tom Conlon when I've seen him. I don't think he's been great, fits and starts, and we need to get more out of that. And that's part of the problem, is we're not controlling games in the middle of the park. But he signed a few players in there, and we've got players that potentially, like Jez, you mentioned, Rochdale fans, obviously quite a few of them were none too plus interested in what he did for Rochdale last season. You can see how you can see why Mellon and Brabin and what have you have signed him, because he's got potential and he's a young lad. And they've got to coach him to make him make better decisions. So like you're saying, is to pass the ball when he should and not, instead of come back for the fourth time trying to beat somebody or get a ball into the box. The same for Josh Lundstrom. He shows in fits and starts. He's got something about him, but then just goes missing for large periods of games. Conlon should be grabbing the game by the scruff of the neck and trying to boss it. This is the bit of the problem. And at the minute, we've just been light up front because we've had injuries, and the injuries are only just returning. We might have another injury, and he doesn't fancy Alex Reid. And a lot of people keep coming back to Alex Reid. Alex Reid turns into prime Cristiano Ronaldo every time he doesn't play. I don't think he's the answer anyway. So we may need to, they've obviously been trying to sign Josh Stones. That didn't come off. Will it come off later? So there's still things that are bubbling along that could improve us. And I feel like it will click at some point. And we've just got to be patient, and people think that is patient infinite? Okay, maybe not, but I've certainly got a lot more of it in the bank at the minute. I'm still not worn out of patience. I've got plenty to lavish on it at the minute because, we are turning an oil tanker. It is improving. Yes, it's slow. We'll end up in the playoffs. I'm convinced we'll get in the top 7. I think we'll be comfortably in there.
Simon, are you happy with the way that the team is set up and the formation? Because you look at the results, you could argue that it's because of the formation, you could argue it's because we're not taking chances or whatever. He changed the formation yesterday and he went 2 up top and he went for it, and like you say, he got that with. Do you think he's been playing with the 1 up front, with the 2 behind, depending on who that 2 has varied? The 5 across the middle. Is that? Do you think he's right to persist with that formation, or is it time to maybe look at starting the game maybe like on Tuesday, depending on who's available, slightly different way?
My assumption this season has always been that he's been playing that way because of the personnel he's got available to him. And actually, it's been more of a needs must because, like Andy said, he clearly doesn't fancy Alex Reid, wasn't even in the squad yesterday. So he was never going to be a starter. Which left us with just Fondop before Norwood came back. So I've kind of assumed it was a needs must. Whether that, if we'd have got Stones, would that have changed? If we get someone else, would that change? When Garner comes back, does that change? I don't know. For me, I don't know whether it's so much the formation as the actual almost desire to get that control of the game and to actually get on that front foot. I mentioned Conlon before. Lundstrom yesterday was exactly the same. Jez was the same, where it was the safe pass all the time, and just getting, taking more of a chance maybe is a thing as well. Having said that, we clearly put a lot more pressure on them when we did have the 2 up front yesterday, with that extra width from Caprice and Kitching. So I would imagine and hope that he will actually play that 2 up front more regularly once the personnel is there for him to do that. And with that personnel change, you are also hopefully looking likely at results changes as well. Because let's face it, the last few games, barring yesterday, really, it's chances missed that has cost us being right up near the top of the table, really, because we've made the clear-cut chances and not taken them. So hopefully with that personnel, with Garner back, hopefully Norwood staying fully fit, Fondop coming on and doing like he did yesterday. I think that's his ideal. That Fondop coming on, really just mixing it up front basically, and then he got a good goal.
I assume that's why they gave Fondop another contract. Like I said, I wouldn't have
that's
gone
a lot better,
but to be an impact sub, not to be a starter, and if that's a role he can play, then fair enough. I think there's some stats that were thrown out last week. I think we're up there in terms of chances created, believe it or not. We're like second in the league before this weekend, and it sounded like we created enough chances in the second half yesterday to have won it again. So it probably isn't that we're not creating enough chances, even with 1 up top. We're just not putting them away, and
we're conceding soft goals, Andy.
And we've only lost 1 game. We've only lost 1 game. It's not like, yes, we've drawn 4, but it's not like we're other than that 1 game that we lost, we're not being played off the park. So yeah, it's just teetering on the edge of converting into something slightly better, I think.
Yeah, if we'd have won 2 more games, then everyone would be buzzing with where we were in the league, because people look at the league at this, even like I said, I don't think that you can take too much into it of the league at this stage in the season. But if 2 more games we'd have won, and we could easily have done so, then it's different. It's very, very different. And so, yeah, I can imagine that Mickey Mellon's very frustrated because he wants the wins as much, if not more, than anyone else. But he's a student of the game. He studies the game. He studies the opposition. He has, like you said, Andy, you're talking about the competitiveness in the division. I would argue that if you think about it, it's more competitive now because there's more teams in with a chance. Back when we had Wrexham, Notts County, Chesterfield, it was between 3 teams, and the rest of us were scraping around for a playoff place that you probably weren't going to win. All right. Other teams, beat the likes of Wrexham, Notts County, but it was one of those 3 teams that was going to go up over the last 3 seasons, and that's what's happened. So, now it's totally different. It's totally different. There's a lot more teams that could win the league. There's a lot more teams that could get in the playoffs. So it is very competitive in that respect. And unfortunately, we are Oldham Athletic 2024, not Oldham Athletic any other year, and we're in the National League, and we are still in the process of going through a transitional period. Unfortunately, 2024, prices for things are sky high. Everything's expensive. It's prohibitively expensive to go to a National League game for a lot of people, unfortunately, at the moment. I think the cost of it is something which is jarring with people, because it is a poor quality product, relatively speaking, from where we've been before. We've paid much less and been to Boundary Park in League One and watched us play against big teams like, the Sheffield clubs and Forest and Leeds and all this kind of stuff. So to pay 25 quid on the day to go and watch us play, not necessarily Southend, but Fylde or Braintree or whatever, it's, people are looking at it and thinking it's a bit much, and then there's all these issues with the price of things in the ground and all this kind of stuff. So I can understand why there's kind of a little bit of a lack of attendances are down and the atmosphere was a bit flat yesterday. So if taking all those things into consideration, I can kind of understand it.
They're trying to do. They still haven't sorted a deal out with the catering supply, have they? They're still exploring that, I think, because my assumption. I'm not privy to any information here. Just my assumption is that the catering supplier needs to cater for Latics and Roughheads, because obviously we ground share with the rugby, and they're trying to use the stadium. I think I saw the groundsman say the other day the game this weekend was something like the 7th sporting event he'd have prepared for in a week. So they're trying to get income into the stadium. They're trying to get the OEC used. They're trying to get the gym generating revenue. They're doing everything they can to make sure that we can compete on the pitch. And hopefully some of the prices will readjust to something more acceptable once they've got that stuff sorted out. Obviously, they've done a deal with J. Willie Lees, which raised a few eyebrows from one or two people. Personally, I've got no problem with it. How can it be a bad thing to try and engage as many successful local businesses as possible to get involved in the club? We've got part of history, and so I think I'm sort of prepared. Whenever Latics ask me for money, I pay it. I've got 5 season tickets. I pay the stream service. I pay to watch the games. I buy my kids kits. I'll do within what I can afford. Obviously, you can't go beyond what you can afford, just to try to help the Rothwells put as much money in the coffers as possible so that we can compete.
It's hot new merch, sexy merch. It's hot new merch. It's sexy, sexy, sexy merch.
Visit weareoldham.co.uk/shop now to see our brand new range of hot, sexy merch.
It's hot new merch, sexy merch. It's hot new merch. It's sexy, sexy, sexy merch.
So, hopefully things will turn. I know it's been a slow start, but hopefully it'll turn. I'll tell you what else has been a slow start, Matt, this season. Latics Mind has been a slow start. Let's see if you can be the catalyst that kicks off the Latics Mind season, and also that transfers onto the pitch on Tuesday at Halifax.
Right. Are you ready, Simon?
I think so. Go on. Go for it.
Let's play the music.
Who did Andy Ritchie get his first win as Latics manager against?
Oh, pass.
Who was sent off at Southend on the opening game of last season?
Oh, it's completely gone. Pass. The pressure's too much.
Who did Latics play in the 3rd round of the League Cup in 1996?
Scarborough.
Wrong. It was Newcastle United, where you're from.
Oh, right.
Old Grounds. Who scored Latics' last goal at Ayresome Park? Not far from you.
Let's say Richie.
It was Richard Graham. Over Latics' 3 playoff ties, what is the overall aggregate score?
9-6.
9-5.
Oh.
How many clean sheets did Bruce Grobbelaar keep in his 4-game spell in April to May 1998?
None.
He kept 3. Latics had a goalkeeper in the 1960s who shared his name with a footballing superstar. What was he called?
Pass.
Who scored the first goal of Joe Royal's second stint as manager?
No, I'll pass that as well.
What was the B-side to Latics' Wembley single, The Boys in Blue, called?
No idea.
Which former Stoke City striker had a short spell at Latics in 2015?
2015-16, Ricardo Fuller.
Correct.
Yes. 1. Brilliant.
He got one.
Right on the bell and all.
Right on the bell and all.
My mates are going to have my life for this.
So what do we think that means? Latics are going to get another 1-1 draw at Halifax on Tuesday. Right, I'll go through the passes for the listeners and we'll test Matt. Who was sent off at Southend on the opening game of last season, Matt?
Will Sutton.
Correct.
That's my one, by the way.
That's your one. Who did Andy Ritchie get his first win as Latics manager against? Bit niche, this one.
Yeah, I don't know. Huddersfield.
Yeah, it was Crewe 3-2 in a League Cup game.
Yeah.
Latics had a goalkeeper in the 60s, shared his name with a footballing superstar. What was he called?
Messi.
David Best was the name of the goalkeeper. And who scored the first goal of Joe Royal's second stint as manager?
This is when he took over after, what's he called? Left, isn't it?
Yeah, Dave Penny.
Yeah, I don't know. Luke Beckett.
It was Danny Whittaker, a late equaliser away at Cheltenham. Was there one more? What was the B-side to the Boys in Blue?
Now that's a niche question, Andy.
Yeah. You got any idea?
I haven't got a clue.
I actually knew this one, as I've got it. It was called the Roger Rap.
Oh, no way.
A tribute to Roger Palmer. Yeah.
And is it a rap by Cannon and Ball?
Yeah.
Why is this never heard? Can you?
I was going to say, why have I never heard that? That's amazing.
Do you know? I've got it on 7-inch vinyl in the house.
Yeah, I think I've probably got a copy of it knocking about somewhere. But we should get that. We should get that recorded. Get that onto transferred onto MP3, and then we can
play it.
Yeah, we need to learn the foot. I mean, I know all the words to the John Barnes rap in World in Motion, but I think I need to learn the Roger rap as well, so I can embarrass my nephews with it at some point. Yeah. So you got 1, which is pretty much the standard this season, I think, isn't it? 0 or 1.
Yeah.
I got 1 again.
Pretty tight bunch. Yeah.
So well done. Well done for taking part in the podcast rather than well done for your performance on Latics Mind.
No, thanks for having me on, fellas. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
And keep up the articles. I read them, your long distance Latics articles when
excellent. Thanks. Yeah.
So, yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, they're on the Oldham Times website every Tuesday or Wednesday.
When just tell us what kind of things you write about when you do write. What for listeners is it analysis of the games or what is it?
I try and get bits in about what it's like to be long distance as well. But large parts of it are about obviously the games and how it's going. But quite often I'll try and get things in about what's happened being a long distance Latic, because obviously my home games is like 300-mile round trip. Which I've always said is completely different to a lot of people's home games, and it's not like I don't think I deserve extra credit or anything like that. It's just a different way of doing it, and it's how I do it. Yeah. So yeah, I'll sometimes write about stuff like that as well, but it is largely about the.
Do you drive, or do you get the train, or how do you get it?
A bit of both. It depends basically. So I'll drive mostly. But it is good to get down on the train and have a few beers as well.
And are there any other Latics fans that make that trip from that neck of the woods that you come?
Not that I'm aware of, to be honest.
Well, if you're listening and you are in the northeast or around Newcastle and you make the journey to Boundary Park, Simon, are you on social media, Simon?
Yeah. At Longest Latic.
Right. So get in touch, and there you've got might have a partner in crime that you can write about some week. Were you going to say something, Andy?
I'm a long distance Latic, being down south, so yeah, I kind of understand where you're coming from. And I've had a stinker this season, so I've been on holiday for Aldershot away and Wealdstone away, which I went to last year and would have gone to. And then next weekend, I can't do the pod because it's my wedding anniversary, and me and the wife are going away for the weekend, and it's Woking away.
Yeah.
Nightmare.
Oh yeah, nightmare. Missing walking away.
I know, nightmare. I tried to see if she wanted to go to Woking, and she was having none.
No. Well, so I'm sure that if I ask you, Simon, when Latics play Gateshead away, you'll know that off the top of your head, won't you? That must be the first one you look at. When's that?
Yeah, Saturday, 25th of January.
Yeah, you'll be looking forward to that one.
Yeah, that's my home game. That's how I always imagined I'd be going to games as I will do that day, like effectively walking to the ground, basically, and that sort of stuff. So I always make the most of that one, definitely.
Well, let's just hope that one day in the not too distant future, you'll be going to St James's Park to watch Latics.
That's definitely the dream. Yeah, definitely.
in the league. I don't know what that says. Whether it some kind of spectacular decline in form and stature from Newcastle, which is looking highly unlikely with the owners they've got, or the meteoric rise of Latics. But a cup game at St James's would be nice, wouldn't it? FA Cup quarter final or something like that.
Definitely.
Yeah. Right. So we've got Halifax on Tuesday. Lads, I said that I would be happy with a return of 4 points over these two games. We're going to have to overcome one of our bogey teams in order to do that. We've not beaten Halifax Town since our since our demise to the National League. What do you think we're going to have to do? It's not Captain Hindsight, like Dave said. It's Captain Foresight that we need to call upon. Do you fancy us for our first win against Halifax, Simon? Do you think we'll go there and get 3 points, or is it going to be another frustrating draw at best?
I think we're as good, if not better, than most of the sides in the league, and I include Halifax in that. So there's absolutely no reason why we can't go there and get 3 points. Whether we do or not depends on those sorts of tweaks that we were talking about earlier, basically, hopefully having a bit more consistency over that 90 minutes, taking the chances, but without doubt we're capable of doing that. And I'll back us every single game this season with the squad we've got to win against whoever's in front of us, to be honest, because I think the squad is good enough for that. It's not going to translate to obviously winning every game and winning the title, but on any given day we can beat any side in the division. Without a doubt, as far as I'm concerned.
We'll go 1-0 down after 24 minutes, and then have to battle our way back into the game. Hopefully, we take 3 points. I'm not sure if we've got injuries, whether we're quite ready yet, but it'll turn. Be patient.
I'm looking forward to it because it's a shame it's not on a Saturday because it's a really good one to get the train over, stop in Ebden and a few beers and all that, but. I'm looking forward to getting on that terrace. It's a great terrace behind the goal at Halifax. It's a big stand, standing up under the lights. There'll be a good number of Latics fans making the trip over, and it'd be really nice to come away from there with all 3 points and give everybody a bit of a lift ahead of walking away. It's a long, hard, and grim season in the National League, but at some point it has to turn. And let's all just keep the faith with Mickey. Let's keep the faith with the players, and let's keep cheering them on. Hopefully, to a better finish in the National League this season than we've enjoyed over the last 2 seasons. Thanks very much for joining us, guys. Thanks very much for listening, folks, and we'll see you for the phone-in on Wednesday. Thanks a lot. Goodbye.
Hey Dave, did you know that listeners can now buy us a coffee or any other kind of hot beverage?
Ooh.
What's your favourite hot beverage, Dave?
A macchiato.
And how do you like your macchiato?
Black with lots of milk. Oh.
No cream?
No.
Well, if you want to buy Dave a
macchiato,
then go to buymeacoffee.com/We Are Oldham. I'll just have a Nescafe.
Ooh. Thank you, listeners.